is up, Internet? Without coordination, those 8 minutes can cost them their lives. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And they had dreams and ambitions too. My name is Shahir Dowd.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film, The Voice of Hind Rajab.
Ah, yes. The movie, there's a New York Times opinion columnist, Imgim Ghassan, who I quite enjoy reading, who wrote about this, the movie I was afraid to watch. And I wonder if that kind of resonated with you.
Well, I mean, sure. Yeah. Sorry if this intro is a little bit rough, everybody. This movie is, it falls into the category of, how do I even put it? Excellent nightmare. It is an incredibly effective film, and if you're not familiar with it, if you're just like a diehard Dopam fan, then this one will be an interesting discussion point, because the way this movie is made, the topic that this movie is about, is incredibly poignant, powerful, dark, important, nightmarish. It's going to be an interesting and difficult episode, I think, that we'll sort of be handling here together with all of you. But Shahir, you were pushing very hard to do this film, and it's obviously one of the international Oscar contenders.
Yeah.
And it's, again, sort of like what you said with that article, with that review. It is something that knowing the premise is something one would very much be normal to be trepidatious about watching.
Yeah. No, I was curious about that because I knew about the film. I wasn't sure what you knew about it. So
I didn't know much.
Yeah. I was curious about like how you felt about approaching this particular film.
I did not know. I did not know the core mechanic from which this film was made.
Mm-hmm.
So that was rough, so I kind of went into it fairly blind. I knew it was about Gaza and all of the nightmares.
Had you heard the Hind Rajab story before?
No.
So as the events in the movie unfolded, these were all new to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No. So I mean, I did. To be fair, I didn't know much about the movie itself. I knew it had been nominated for an Oscar. Knew it was distributed by Watermelon Pictures, who also distributed another film that we both really loved this year, All That's Left of You. I knew that it was based in part on the real phone call, and uses the real phone call as a key mechanic of the film. And I knew kind of roughly what had happened to Hind Rajab. As we discussed on the podcast, particularly on our All That's Left of You episode, the Israel-Palestine conflict is something that we definitely both have opinions on and are aware of, and certainly don't want to in any way suggest that our inability to speak about it is in any way mitigating or diminishing the actual horror of the scale of the events as that film, All That Left of You, goes into all the way back to 1947 and even before then. But it's more of a case of neither of us really want to get into a situation where I'll speak for myself about talking about this particular topic without really having done a deep dive into the actual history of the subject itself. Again, I feel like I sort of tertiarily know the subject and know what is, like how we have gotten to the situation that we've gotten to right now, but in terms of the Israel-Palestine conflict. And certainly these movies are a way to navigate that topic, with fresh eyes and kind of, see how we feel about it right now. So this, I actually, full disclosure, I love do it when we get to do movies like this that are actually a little bit challenging, that are a little bit difficult for us to actually like figure out the language to. I think it's actually a good muscle to flex. Is like, oh, the tricks and tools that I use to talk about every movie don't necessarily apply here. So how can I think about talking about this movie and articulate it in a way that will be of use to the audience who are listening in and, deciding whether they want to watch the film. I'll say up front, you absolutely should watch this film, and it is an incredibly important film, incredibly beautifully made film about an incredibly important topic that is happening right now. So there's, this other thing about cinema is its ability to reflect current history as it goes.
That was what I was going to sort of bring up too, is sort of a first point is both amazingly and incredibly sadly, many conflicts that are modern and ongoing are already being made into films.
Yeah.
And that's not something that is, I feel like it's happening more and more. That is not something that usually was the norm. You have tons of films about conflicts, but normally it's 50, 100, 200, however many years in the past, like looking back on it. This is an active war, you know, like, and the fact that this film exists while that conflict is still going on is insane.
We talked about on this year's episode on All the President's Men the fact that it was kind of miraculous that film came out so closely after the Nixon resignation, and we wondered about like films that could do that now, given that technology has created the mechanisms of making movies a little bit quicker for one, not easier. So I think this is a good example of a film that is actually contemporaneously about an event that is ongoing at this point. And you know, look, we are, this week is so fascinating to be walking around New York City. So, I have a project on in the city. So I've been, you know, actually in the city for the first time in a while. Normally I'm in my office, which is not in the city. And, you know, spring is in the air, daylight savings change. The temperature immediately changed from like, I'll go 5 degrees Celsius up to like 18 degrees Celsius, which is nonsense for all you non-metric.
Like 65.
Yeah, something like it. Just like suddenly I was wearing t-shirts. But at the same time, I was walking around New York City. You know, we have engaged into a war, although people aren't calling it a war yet with Iran.
Oh, many people are.
Yeah, and. You know, we've talked a lot this year about Iranian cinema, particularly through the work of Kaouther Ben Hania, who's been nominated for an Oscar. And it's just, you know, the echoes of when Asghar Farhadi's film, The Salesman, was nominated for an Oscar, and he couldn't actually attend because of the Muslim ban, I believe it was at the time as well. So, you know, tensions are high. I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts about the news, about what's going on, and I always feel a little bit overwhelmed by it. So we won't be mad at you if, you know, like M. Ghassan, who wrote, feel a little overwhelmed, and whether this film will make you be something that you don't want to listen to at this moment. But I will urge you that, you know, the thing, again, that I love about movies is that feeling of being challenged, that feeling of like having to confront things that I'm not ready to confront at any point in time. And also really acknowledging that 99% of filmmakers who go through the process of making a film do it in good faith and do it in a sort of like, hey, this is my view on this subject, and this is how I want to portray it, and this is what I want to have to say about it. So, you know, like, take that for whatever we will. And, you know, I certainly enjoy this. I remember like our first movie like this was Son of Saul.
Yeah.
You know, like, and there was a conversation about like, well, what do we want from a movie?
But it's also so interesting too, because going back to Son of Saul, obviously, you know, tales of the Holocaust and things of that serious nature feel so long ago, even though it really isn't. I mean, and now something like this that is literally happening while we're recording this.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly, I rewatched One Battle After Another just this week or last week, I can't remember. And, you know, the fact that is a movie that is ostensibly dealing with immigration issues, that, you know, has kids in cages, that, you know, like uses a lot of the same imagery, that talks a lot about issues that are in the current zeitgeist right now. It's really fascinating to watch that movie through that prism of like its prescience, but also how it's avoiding that topic.
It dances around it. Interestingly,
it's really, really fascinating. So I'm glad that we get to do this. Thanks for this will also be the last of the Best International Feature nominees for the Oscars this year. Our next episode will be our quick summation of what happened at the Oscars, or whatever happened at this point, who got slapped, which movie won Best Picture, which movie won Best Cast of the Year, which song did Jack Black jump into and turn into a Minecraft song wherever possible. All of that will be coming up in the very next episode. And we have asked at this point, although I think the timing of this will be so awkward for this particular
episode. At this point, you'll have 36 hours after you listen to this, maybe 48 if you're whistling on Nebula.
If you listen to this and you want to write us in or send us a voice memo of your top 10 movies of 2025, please, 1 minute only. You basically have approximately 12 hours from the release date of this episode to get that in.
Yeah, just so you know, sorry, now we're talking a little shop. This episode's going to release basically one day early, Friday on Nebula and Saturday for everywhere else on YouTube. And then our Oscar episode will air, basically the one for the week will air super early. It's going to air on Monday or Tuesday following the Oscars. Then it'll be essentially like, I don't know, almost 2 weeks before our next episode, which we're still figuring out.
We're going to take a little break after that. You won't be getting a break in episodes. You'll be
getting one early, like a week early.
You'll be getting one episode really, really early. So
don't worry, this thing that is free, you will not be losing value on.
We will keep up our end of the bargain. So write us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Also, this week, we launched our first video episode, which is on YouTube right now with Patrick Willems, where we talked about Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. I think that's the order of operations.
What a total shift.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm trying to, whenever I have a free moment, to post clips to the Instagram about that. And people seem to be responding about it. I'm getting so many emails from friends and family about the fact that I'm in my closet. Like this is the people like.
Do people not understand that that's just sound dampening?
They're just surprised to see me sitting in a closet doing the podcast. And I was like, this is what we've been doing for 10 years, particularly during COVID. I did the whole podcast in my closet, and people really are surprised by that. So I'm enjoying that interaction as well.
I think it looks great. I think all three of our sets, Patrick's looked immaculate. Mine's fine. And yours looks very cozy.
It looks very nice. Yeah, I would love to actually do a little bit more of a visual design thing, but that takes a little bit of money. So, again, the profits that we're reaping right now.
Oh, of course, all of the profits
will be heavily reinvested into that project at some point. I just want to shout out one email from and again, we do have quite a few voice memos right now. Thank you so much to everyone who's emailed us in with those. But I did have one email that was sent a little while ago and that I wanted to get to. Hassan writes, hope you guys are doing well. Again, spending some quality time catching up on movies. I'm 20 minutes into Begonia, and it already looks like it's going to be another banger from Mr. Lanthimos. I also saw what I might consider a major blind spot, which is Ben-Hur. I'm going to pause here and say, I'm hoping you watched the original Ben-Hur and not the remake. The one with Charlton Heston and not the remake.
There's a remake?
There was a remake that came out a few years ago that is quite wild in terms of they just basically took Ben-Hur and made it look like a 2010 action adventure.
What a great idea.
Yeah. So back to the email here. I'm referring to the Charlton Heston movie, I presume. I am in absolute awe in this film. My feelings after that movie finished could be summarized by that Danny DeVito gif from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I get it now. Anyway, a funny story. A few years back, I was hosting a gathering at my house, and I never really liked a lot of the guests who were visiting.
What?
So I decided to play this wholesome family film called The Thing. The reaction went a little like this. Oh, that poor dog. Why are they shooting at him? Wait, the fuck? Oh, what the fuck? Wait. So what happened to the last two dudes? I noticed a few guests left their plates half eaten. Mission accomplished. Wish you all the best. Have you got movies? Thank you, Hassan, for that email. Have you got movies that you play to try and get rid of people?
Was that what he did, or did he just not want to talk to him?
I mean, he says he never really liked a lot of the guests who were visiting, so he decided to play a wholesome family film called The Thing. First off, I know you love The Thing. I like The Thing a lot too. I've only seen The Thing a couple of times. And I've never fell into the lore of man, this is my movie kind of thing. But
also the remake of The Thing, not that bad.
Oh, it's got Joel Edgerton in it, I think.
It also has Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Okay.
It's not again, the original is better, but that's neither here nor there. It's shocking that it's pretty okay.
It's pretty okay. Yeah.
Do I have a movie that I use to get people out of my house? I mean, Jim Cotta would probably be the one.
But you enjoy that movie. You would want to.
They enjoyed The Thing.
But I think the point is that you would want those people to sit through and watch Jim Cotta.
I think he wanted them to sit through and watch it.
Well, he's like, I don't really like the guests, so I wanted to play something that would get rid of.
That's not what his email.
That's not what he says.
Clear it up. Email us back. Email us back and let us know that if you played The Thing to get them to leave, or did you play The Thing to get them to stop talking and engage with something you like?
Man, because I have so many movies that I would play to get rid of people. I'd never done that, by the way. I've never, ever done that.
I could put on Umberto D to really kill a vibe. I mean, it's an excellent film, and I love it, but it's slow.
But that's the thing is that like you would play that movie because you wanted to show it to people.
But yeah, that's any movie I would own, right? I mean, for instance, Cats, which I have on Blu-ray.
But again, you would play that because you wanted them to see it.
I kind of want them to see it.
Yeah.
I don't think there is one. I don't think I own a film that is my poison pill. I don't think that exists.
I think I definitely have it. I've never done it, but I definitely have movies that I could play that would be like, people looking at their watch going, I got to go now.
The Cremaster Cycle?
The Cremaster Cycle would be one of them, yeah. Actually, a fun story. I don't have the Cremaster Cycle because it's unavailable on DVD.
Yeah.
Or there is a DVD of one of them. And there is one called Drawing a Straight Number 9, which I really, really want. But the guy who made those, Matthew Barney, his studio is actually not far from here.
Really?
Like, it's in Long Island City. It's like you can still find it on map. I don't know if he's still there.
We should go say hi.
We should just drop by and say, hey,
we need a physical copy of the Cremaster Cycle.
It's like, I have a question about the Cremaster Cycle. Have you got a minute to tell us?
He'd be like, sure.
Yeah. So for those who haven't seen it, the Cremaster Cycle is Matthew Barney's 9-movie cycle.
Something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, if you have a movie that you would play to get rid of people out of your house, please email us in onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com and tell us what it might be. I think this is a fascinating subject. Movie, Poison Pill movie.
Poison Pill movie?
Poison Pill movie. Is that it?
But I just
There's probably a bitter alliteration.
I just don't know. Like, I guess with streaming, you don't have to own a movie that you'd want to do that now. Because before you'd have to either have rented it to prepare or own it just like a break glass situation. But I guess I'm just not in a situation where I have a lot of people in a place where I'm in control of the media devices that I don't like.
And I'm trying to get rid of them. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't like a lot of people.
Sure.
But am I in a situation where the people I don't like, am I holding people hostage and I want them to leave?
I think when I've had parties and I've wanted people to leave, what I end up doing, okay, two ways.
Closing time?
2 ways. Well, yeah. Closing time is great. You can change the music. You can kill a vibe of a party with music. But also, if you want a party to end in approximately 45 minutes, do you know what you do? You start playing Jackbox games.
I don't know what those are.
Jackbox games are those games that you can get on the computer or the consoles where everyone's phone is their controller, and it's like, like you play like Quidditch or Balderdash or like you do all these like almost like trivia-esque games, and they're super fun. This is not a dig on Jackbox games, but they will kill the vibe of a party.
Okay.
Jamie will back me up on this.
I've never played a Jackbox game. If I come over and you're suddenly like, hey, why don't we play some Jackbox? And I'll be like, I get the hint.
No. Because I've also had people over specifically to do that. But I'm saying if you're having a party, like a social event where talking is the point, nothing kills the vibe faster than a Jackbox.
Look, 100%. I know for a fact, if I played a Tarkovsky movie at my house, like, and people were like sitting around talking, that would kill the vibe, you know, like, and there's lots of movies like that I could do. But my wife would leave the room right away if I played if I played Stalker right now. So anyway, again, Hassan, I think you've opened up an incredible can of worms here. And I am fascinated to hear from them. Also, I believe Hassan, we've talked to him before. He has recently had children, had a new child, and potentially and has other children as well. So I know time is difficult. So I do appreciate when you're writing in like, I'm 20 minutes into this movie, and it's like I'm there for you, buddy. I understand, and we owe you a movie. I think Akira or Eon Flux. I've got Ghost in the Shell. He really wanted us to do Ghost in the Shell.
Which like the actual anime?
Yeah, not the Scarlett Johansson movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, how mad would he be?
Maybe we should do that just to annoy him.
Ooh, maybe if we want him to not email us anymore, we could take a page from his book.
I think this will just set up like a blood vendetta between us.
We don't want to do that.
Yeah, this will keep going for a while. Anyway, again, thank you for everyone who's written us in with their top 10 movies of 2025. A few, by the way, the hard and fast rule is make it 1 minute, but a few people have emailed in with just like their favorite documentaries of the year or their favorite films that they only saw a couple of movies and they wanted to write in and share about that. We love to hear those. I know we say top 10. We love to hear those top 10s as well. But just write us in and talk to us. We love hearing your voices.
Yeah.
We want to play it on the show. We want when that top 10 episode comes out as well, I make a huge list of all the movies that are mentioned. Hopefully there's new things that gets added to it. I'll put it up on my Letterboxd.
We kind of have a thing of like what wins those at this point. It's kind of evolved into this weird competition.
Yeah.
And that also includes, which I just started editing, my White Elephant Party, where I pull guests into my studio at an actual party who may or may not be drunk. And they tell us the favorite film that they've seen that year. Doesn't have to be from that year, just the movie that was their favorite that they watched in 2025.
I'm expecting a lot of mentions of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2.
Oh, yeah. I haven't gotten there yet.
All right. So again, we are discussing Kaouther Ben Hania's film, The Voice of Hind Rajab, which is again nominated for Best International Foreign Film this year, and a movie which uses real life footage of the final call of Hind Rajab. For those
audio, not footage.
Which, for those who are unaware of, was a 6-year-old girl who was traveling from Gaza and was caught in a military situation of some description. I'm saying some description because we're going to talk about this in some detail in a little bit. And made a call to the Red Cross and essentially was recorded in the final hours of her life. This is not a surprise because of the story. Surrounded by the bodies of her entire family. And so, many of us are parents. The idea of a 6-year-old child being left alone in that situation and finding her final moments is of course horrific. Hind Rajab since then has become a central figure in the conversation around the plight of the Palestinian people. Macklemore, of all people, wrote 2 protest songs called Hind's Hall, based off of her name, in terms of his to express his frustration at the Palestinian conflict. And recently you can see posters of Hind Rajab in many places depicting essentially the face of the tragedy of Palestine in the shape of a little girl. And I think the thing that is interesting about that, or difficult to swallow but also fascinating, is the idea that a single image becomes the centerpiece of a struggle.
I mean, humans are pattern-based and simple at the end of the day when it comes to it. And it's something that is frustrating because obviously she is not the only victim of the brutal massacres that are going on there. It's the fact that we have these audio recordings and they've been, it tells the story of the sort of wretched cruelty that's sort of going on in that part of the world.
Yeah. According to some statistics, there have been approximately 20,000 Palestinian children killed since the conflict began in October 2023.
Yeah. And while the official government lines have not used the G word, it's quite hard not to call this essentially a genocide.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to focus more so on the film because otherwise I'll kind of be here all day. But it's an incredibly, like going back to your point, this is a incredibly visible, or in this case for the film, but audible, and the story is being visible, example of just the nightmare scenario that is being inflicted on the Palestinian people. And we have this one example of the 20,000 children that have been killed needlessly. And, it's a rough watch. While I was going into it, I did not realize, like, the story sounded familiar, and then I did not realize that they were going to actually use her audio. It makes total sense. I think it is for what this film is trying to do, it is an incredibly effective, emotionally infuriating, gut punch that it makes the performances and makes what you are viewing. It's this weird sort of like hybrid reality. Like, it's not a documentary. It's essentially a reenactment, but only partially because her voice is her voice. I don't know if I've actually seen anything that has utilized something like this before. Definitely not in a current conflict. And when we finished watching it, a question did pop into my mind.
Okay.
And it was a frustrating one because I knew the answer. And it's not that I'll just say it. I said, who is this for?
Okay.
And it's not because it's not important. And it's not because it's not incredibly effective. It is movies like this. Sometimes it feels like are not going to get to the audiences that need to see them the most because those audiences are not interested in reflection, if that makes sense. And I'm globalizing a lot here with different groups and things like that. This obviously is incredibly effective to anyone who sees it. In fact, if you watch this film and are not immediately infuriated and disheartened and just having your entire concept of humanity kind of shattered, I would question if it was there ever at all. But sadly, a lot of the monsters that are complicit in these sort of things will never see this movie. And that was sort of my lizard brain gut reaction. I don't actually I do believe that a film like this, its very existence will be at the least amount sort of a remembrance and a legacy of one of the thousands upon thousands of innocent people that are being killed in this conflict, and at a much greater thing, maybe get more people knowledgeable and involved that would be empathetic and want to take action and move forward in a way to try to make sure something like this never happens again. Do you know what I mean? But there is that I get frustrated because it feels like I'll back up. There was a thing, I'm going to talk about Ben Shapiro for a second.
Okay.
He watched one battle after another.
Okay.
And obviously missed every possible thing about it. He didn't quite, he was just thinking about how ridiculous, the Christmas Adventurers Club was as villains and all this other stuff. But, and I'm pulling this from, if you ever watch Even More News with Cody and Katie, they do an incredibly good breakdown of this. But basically, everything he's saying is ridiculous is almost contingent of what he's been trying to do in his entire career. Mm-hmm. Even how the right has sort of distanced, many elements of them have distanced themselves from Ben Shapiro, the same way that the Christmas Club is kind of at the end of the film, spoiler alert, has distanced themselves from Lockjaw. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So my I guess my whole thing about how I'm tying this together is oftentimes, even when people who I think need this medicine see the film, they are so inundated in their own way of thinking that they'll miss the point completely. And again, it's different with a blockbuster and what this is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm constantly sort of frustrated with that fact. It's
I when it comes to Ben Shapiro, and I've listened to a little bit of Ben Shapiro. I don't follow his show particularly. One thing I would say about my impression of Ben Shapiro is he's very aware that he's pulling a contradiction like that.
Oh yeah,
he's pushing a button because he knows it gets engagement. And I find him to be genuinely disingenuous about his actual beliefs, because he is very savvy about making clips that enrage people. And so I actually don't. I think his read of One Battle After Another is more because he's also look. I'm not a fan of his film criticism. He actually does a fair amount of it on his site. But I think he's a guy who's actually very aware of what the films are trying to do, and he's very aware of film history and those sorts of things.
Here's the thing.
I think he is very knowingly trying to irritate you. So when you say
many times I would agree with you. I would urge people to watch the things about this. This is something that truly feels, because I know he's a troll. That's what he does professionally. This is not that. In this particular one, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's him 95% of the time.
Yeah.
This was not that. This is him just being a straight up idiot. Because it's not anything that's enrage based. He comes so close to getting the point and misses it.
I've heard him say to use political whipping points in order to enrage an audience very specifically.
Right,
Knowing,
I'm telling you because I've watched this. I've watched this breakdown of it. This is not that. It doesn't matter for this conversation.
Yeah, okay. The other thing just to note here is that the Voice of Hind Rajab has several notable producers on it. Firstly, Brad Pitt, Joaquin Phoenix, Rooney Mara, Alfonso Cuarón, Spike Lee, Jonathan Glazer, Michael Moore, among many others who felt it was important to add their name to this film. Spike Lee has obviously come out wearing Palestinian clothing or, wrapped in the Palestinian flag at certain events recently. And very actively says, I'm extremely proud of this film, much to the delight of people who really love to get into this idea that support for Palestine or support for the Palestinian people is somehow inherently anti-Semitic. I know, again, New York City, this is a complicated issue. One thing I've always been really, really impressed by is Israel's ability, the nation, as a country, to ensure that its sustained livelihood and endurance as a country is emboldened by engaging in this idea that Israel's place in the world is absolutely necessary, and through their home, the home visits that they do with young people. If you're of Jewish descent, you can basically fly to Israel for free and visit, and they'll take you on a tour of Israel. And I actually think it's an incredibly successful idea. I know there's a lot of people that would just look at this list of names and go, oh, they're all being anti-Semitic. In fact, there's a group, I thought this was fascinating, Zateo. Again, we're wading into politics here right now, who pointed out that the Creative Community for Peace, which is an organization which tackles anti-Semitism in American media, has written a piece about the Voice of Hind Rajab. They've actually spelled her name wrong in this document that I'm reading right now. Actually, that's interesting. But they've come out with sort of talking points that people could use against the movie. This sort of cards, calling it a one-sided narrative, which doesn't explain the context of why Hind Rajab where she was at that time. There's a definite campaign that I've read and seen online to make the suggestion that there is no evidence that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, was in any way responsible for her death. And suggestions that Hamas themselves was firing at her in order to and there's even been refutations of the idea that there was a tank in her vicinity. And this is sort of it's fascinating to come to the context of this movie. From my points of view, I have read like these talking points, and I kind of have tried my best to listen to voices out there. In terms of what they want to say. I 100% vehemently disagree. And I also vehemently, not think that it's missing the point, but fundamentally I'm trying to understand what the movie, like that question you asked of who this movie is for, the movie's for me. And I'm saying that because the movie is there to remind us that at the heart of this tragedy is the notion that there is a child, among 20,000 or more, in everyday life. There was a child who died in the back of a car trying to call for help, surrounded by the bodies and blood of her family.
But then you look at even the cards of these sort of like trying to change the narrative or adjust to talking points against it. And you always know a point is very good when someone gives you cards to tell you about specifically how you should handle speaking about something rather than you looking into it yourself. You always know that that's really on the right side of history. But the thing I think I get frustrated with is you're 1,000% correct. That's what this thing should remind you of. But instead, the people who, again, in my own opinion, based on what I've read and all the stuff around it, is guilty of this specific child's death, is going to look at this thing and instead generate a bunch of cards for people to say nuh-uh, and then it becomes sort of a political football. Again, this isn't me saying that it shouldn't exist. It absolutely should. I think it's important. I think you get more eyes on it, you get more people to formulate their own opinions, and I think they'll sort of land. I think more people who watch this film definitely land on, I think, where you and I land, Shahir, than on the other side of something. No matter how many,
I do.
No matter how many flashcards they prep.
Yeah, I do find it striking, the idea that anyone would watch this and go, well, I don't know,
because I'm going to make a bold statement here, Shahir. I'm against any side that kills children. So
that includes us this week.
Yeah.
That
absolutely.
States, yeah.
Oh yeah. Don't worry. The people in charge don't know what happened, which they do.
The New York Times reported this week, by the way, that the New York Times and the Pentagon reported this week that the Tomahawk missiles that bombed a school in Iran, killing, I think, 140 children, 127 children, was certainly from the U.S.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
We're certainly not saying this, not discussing this movie from a point of righteousness in any way, shape, or form.
Well, actually, so weirdly though, like I'm not going to speak for you. I think I am. Again, I made the joke. I'm bravely coming down on the side that is against the killing of children.
Yeah.
That should be not like I don't get truly righteous about many things. That feels like one where I would say, yeah, like again, I'm trying to keep it in the context of the film itself, but it is, very difficult because the news that you just described that just happened 2 or 3 days ago. And also this is still a fresh conflict that this specific movie is talking about. If this movie can get either more people knowledgeable, angry, righteous, to do more to stop again the murdering of children and young people, I think it's incredibly important and something to get essentially righteous about. This is a time period that younger me, I think I grew up incredibly privileged, even though, where I wasn't thinking about a lot of the other horrible stuff when I was like 10 or 11 years old, right? Like, when you could know about it, but you kind of don't sometimes, depending on your situation. And now as an adult, middle-aged adult, living through this weird, not only horrors, right? Like the horrors of what's going on around the world, but also the way that it is discussed feels so essentially entertainment coded. Yeah. This movie was great because it didn't feel entertainment coded. Yeah. Like this movie is essentially a reenactment. It could very well be a documentary. It's not. It has an element of reality in it. But I feel like a lot of the atrocities of both the war that this movie has to do with, even the stuff that's going on with Iran or Venezuela or any of that other those things that the U.S. is doing, it feels like the entirety of it is trying to make it feel less like an abhorrent nightmare that should not exist and more like TV. Like even Pete Hegseth, the way that he talks about all this shit is like what he thinks an 80s action star would say. And you're kind of like
I think it actually, just given the president's history, is closer to WWE. Like,
sure.
And this is not a dig at WWF.
That's all pageantry.
It's not a dig at WWF. It's just that I think the WWF has become the language of popular culture in America today,
right?
Particularly, particularly in politics.
And it's odd to say that this film is like even something like One Battle. Or something like Civil War, or something, any of these sort of like larger fiction films that deal with Eddington. Yeah. There is a sense of pageantry around it because that's what the job of the
American
movie
cinema is steeped in entertainment first.
1000%. Yeah. We've talked about war movies before, right? Like what is the point of a war movie?
Yeah.
This, even though it is an incredibly difficult watch, it upon reflection was refreshing to see like, nope, this is just raw, naked sadness and humanity of a nightmare of our own creation.
No.
And I was thankful to see something that didn't. The thing that this movie cared about was you knowing that this little girl existed and that this little girl died.
Yeah.
And how it sort of affects not only, obviously her, but the people who are in charge of trying to rescue. And how essentially rules of engagement, or because the interesting thing that I didn't know existed was like, apparently there is a chain of different companies or organizations within both the Israeli government, amongst other places, and rescue organizations where you can get sort of like a path or a green light to go rescue civilians in military conflict. And I'm assuming, based on how the movie is structured and how some of the characters react around that it actually does work sometimes. Going deeply into sort of spoilers for the story, even though it is history, it did not work this time.
I think what was being illustrated in the movie, particularly around the character of Abdel, was that Mahdi, was that it doesn't work, and it doesn't work for even a similar reason that we saw in All That's, the fictional film All That's Left of You, which is a film that takes place in the Palestine-Israel conflict, where and exists in films like Son of Saul and so many others as well, which is that the part of the process of extermination and genocide requires the mechanization of process. And that process can be cruel and unending, and until you're circling the sort of Kafkaesque wheel of like navigating a process that is ultimately doesn't want to work for you, there's a sort of cruelty embedded in the idea that, there is a way for, there's a generally accepted rule that ambulances are permitted to travel through war zones to help people, particularly civilians. But you will need to contact these 3 people in order to get approval to do so. And those 3 people will not take your call until this,
there's a cruelty in bureaucracy.
Yeah. And not only that, like again, in a film like Son of Saul, which depicts the sort of horrors of the Holocaust, there's a cruelty in the mechanization of bureaucracy. Like it actually takes a lot of work to murder that many people on a grand scale. And like, figuring out the logistics of how to do it is actually part of the extermination process. And so actually let's, we've circled around the sort of the contextual, the contextual issues around this film. Let's talk about the film itself. I think, one of the things that's sort of really striking is that the choice to use her real voice for this film is obviously a very pointed political act. And it wants to ensure that we are aware and that we, the audience, go through the same experience that the people at the Red Cross who took this call, particularly Omar and
the Red Crescent.
The Red Crescent, Omar and Rana, sort of have to experience, which is that we have to listen in horror and be unable to do anything about the suffering of a little girl who is not just terrified, but unable to understand, because I've had a 6-year-old. My 6-year-old is older now. But like, the thing is, like a 6-year-old still is forming their understanding of how the world actually operates. And the fundamental basis of most children, of 6-year-old children, or, even younger and older, is that generally they believe, all things considered within the context of their their family situation, what have you, is that generally the world is a good place. And if you ask for help, you are a little child, a grown-up will be there to help you. And, they, generally believe that if you have hunger, you will be satiated. If you, have thirst, you will have water. If you would like a toy, if you'd like to play, there are toys for you to play with. Obviously this is, a particular context that I very much understand, and then you will as well. And, my son will understand, but like the sort of real difficulty of listening to Hind Rajab's call is knowing and understanding that she doesn't understand and never will and shouldn't have to, why no one will come to pick her up and why this happened in the first place. Hind Rajab is a 6-year-old girl who won't even understand why it is they have to flee, other than her parents are, are doing it for her safety. Like the sort of basic needs are fundamentally at the forefront of a child's developmental process at that stage. And so the really hard, gut-wrenching thing that this film is really doing, and doing it beautifully, Kaouther Ben Hania's work here and choices as a director, is making this a really confined chamber piece. This film actually only exists in 3 rooms. 2 rooms, I think, at best, and is just moving between these 2 rooms as we hear a little girl calling for help, and we and the people at the Red Crescent are powerless to do anything. And they are trying to figure out every way possible, navigate the bureaucracy of getting a green light to travel to, to send a ambulance there. And that child is 8 minutes away from an ambulance. But the film is 1.5 hours long, and the actual call, I believe, lasted 2 hours or something like that. And, the really difficult thing is that the film, in that sort of coded way that we deal with entertainment, will cast Mahdi, played by Amir Halil, as a villain, right? So, but he's not. He's not. I'm just saying. I was going to bring that up.
I actually don't think
it's not. So sorry, I'm saying in a way that's coded, a film needs to have a protagonist and an antagonist. And this is the force that is preventing Omar, the protagonist, from achieving his goal of getting an ambulance to Hind Rajab.
I guess.
But what I'm saying here is that he's obviously not the villain.
Well, what I was going to bring up actually was I really appreciated his character. I appreciate all the characters in here, or the real people that they're being played or portrayed, because Omar is being
a human being.
Yeah. And I actually don't think between Omar
and Rana as well.
Mahdi, I don't think that no one in this situation in any, is wrong or being sort of villainous. Like, I really appreciate that Mahdi, when the first conversation they really have is when he goes to the wall and he's like, these are the 20 paramedics that I've sent that have died.
Yeah.
And I said,
they all had dreams and ambitions.
Yeah. And if one, and I said, and I was like, and if he's like, this guy had children, this guy had a wife, this guy, whatever. And he's like, if one more dies, I said, I'd stop.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And you get a real reasoning as to why he's trying to follow this rule. Like, even though your lizard brain and your people are sort of like, I think, as you're rightfully putting out, the protagonist would be more of Omar or Rana.
Who's trying to bypass the system, who's calling, like people he knows who can get there on foot, who's trying to bypass any, like he's trying to call the ambulance directly, tell them where the girl is so that they can go to him directly. And, because he doesn't care about process, what he cares about, as I would in that scenario, is that there is a 6-year-old girl surrounded by the bodies of her family in there. And in the process of like singularizing and using one person's tragedy to explain the tragedy in total is something that we do in American cinema. For Saving Private Ryan is that question of like, what is the life of one person, one soldier worth against the life of the entire
big old trolley problem.
Yeah. And so the film, is really effective and smart about putting us in that position and really playing as well. You were sort of mentioning what kind of film this is. I think the term docudrama has kind of come up, so the hybridization of a documentary and a drama. Films in recent memory that I can kind of think of that work in this way, sort of, is Cleo Bernard's docudrama, The Arbor, which is a really fascinating film about housing estates in the UK, I believe, where they use the recorded documentary voices of interviewees that lived in this housing estate, but film them with actors playing them, and the actors have to like mime the voices of those documentary of those people, and so they inhabit the voices, but it's their bodies.
Oh, interesting.
And it's really fascinating. Another sort of recent example that I can think of, sort of that's obviously not interested in the sort of experimental nature of this, is Interstellar. Interstellar features documentary footage from Ken Burns' documentary about the Dust Bowl at the beginning, to depict the Dust Bowl, and you kind of see those documentary, pieces, and then like jumps into its story. It's obviously just using that as a little intro into that story. So, I think there's a kind of beautifully executed experimental quality to what this film is doing. And the film also, kind of reveals, it gets to a point where towards the end, where it's revealing how close it actually was to the truth by showing us the actor in the background plus a foregrounded video of the real situation. In many ways, it's very
the phone shot.
Yeah.
The phone shot is nuts.
It's very effective. I thought it was a little, kind of like it felt a little bit like the based on a true story sort of mechanism, but far more elegant, far more effective. But and again, this is also a good example of like where the experiment of the form matches what the film is actually trying to do and trying to express to you.
Yeah.
So it is actually incredibly effective. It's 1.5 hours long. I was in tears the whole way. I literally, it's a painful movie to watch because there is just this part of you that is like, can we get this girl out of this situation? Like what the situation and everything that we've talked about on this podcast in terms of like understanding the context of this is stripped away entirely in the movie. And the movie does that very effectively to go, I know what you might feel about Israel, Palestine. I know what you might feel about homelands and October 7th and Hamas and all of these, issues. Can we get this girl out of the car where she is surrounded by the bodies of her family?
Yeah.
And
the answer is no.
And the answer is no. Yeah. The answer is no. And that's the sort of brutal, difficult pill to swallow in this situation, is that, unequivocally 100%, absolutely not. We cannot get the girl out of the car. And like, to me, it sounds twee to say that, but that's a real moment of reflection. Is like, we can't get the girl out of the car.
Yeah. I mean, again, ever since starting my job at Extra History 8 or 9 years or however long it's been ago, constantly sort of learn about the ebbs and flows of sort of, human either compassion or indifference, care or cruelty, depending on the time period and what's going on. And there are moments that history at least will sort of portray as catalysts of change in one direction or another. I'm hopeful that this tragedy is sort of one of those. Like, no one who purports to have a soul or humanity or any kind of whatever value you put on a human being, whoever reports to be a human being, could witness, could watch this film and, no matter what kind of spin they want to put on it, not still want to do what you just said, right? Like, get the girl out of there.
Just want to get the girl out of the car.
And maybe if there's no commonality between sides of this fucking nightmare quagmire, perhaps there's at least the majority of people on either side would, if you just put them in a vacuum and said, do you want to get the girl out of the car with the bodies of her family, or do you want her to die there? I would hope that most people would say, get the girl out of the car.
Yeah.
Humans are messy and scary and spooked very easily, especially in groups. Not to trivialize it, but there's the Men in Black quote that sort of goes into that. Maybe something like this could be a reference point or a tipping point that eventually can move, can find a commonality in a nightmare situation and try to move towards stuff like this not happening.
Yeah,
that's kind of the hope.
I'm not optimistic. I'm not. I really am not.
I'm not either. But again, history is never as clear. Is never as like a straight line as what the history books will kind of sort of say.
Yeah.
But it takes things like this chipping away at awful situations And I think this film does its part trying to do it as best as it can.
And, look, we haven't watched the Oscars at this point, and, we've had we've had many full conversations about value of the Oscars and how they work and, entertainment and all that sort of stuff. But I am actually in admiration that this is a film that was nominated by the Oscars, not least of which last year's documentary film, No Other Land, which also won the best documentary film. Where this is an opportunity for an event, an industry body like the Oscars, something that the Globe turns to. And, there is a small opportunity here for a spotlight to be shone on this. And it never works out the way we think it is. I think about when Michael Moore got up to berate George W. Bush at the winning of his Oscar. It never goes off well. But we're talking about the movie. The people that listen to our show may have an opportunity to go see this movie, or if in some way will know about this story or know about the movie and say, "You idiots, you missed this, this, and this, and this."
You can get on VOD. Actually, it's funny. I was just gonna, because I have Amazon points, so I was just gonna go on Amazon and watch and rent it just for whatever. And the thing that was on the front page of Amazon when I booted it up on the projector was Melania.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm going to buy this anywhere else. I was just like, and not that every tech thing doesn't have its own shit, but not everyone paid $40 billion for a propaganda nightmare.
Yeah. Well, Melania was not nominated for an Oscar this year.
What are you talking about? Haven't you seen the Rotten Tomatoes?
I wonder if she'll present.
The Dow is over 50,000.
It's wild times that we live for. And again, I feel like on this show, we have tried, not intentionally in any way, but we limit sometimes our political views in terms of the films that we choose. I think we were more aggressive, or at least I was, about choosing films that spoke to a moment. And really, really going for certain movies that spoke to a moment.
Oh, Jiu-Jitsu wasn't a moment, you're saying now.
Yeah. Jim Carter really got us there.
We've never done Jim Carter.
Yeah, we did. We did Jim Carter on our special episode, the Silly Bus. And what is the fictional country of Jim Carter, by the way?
Oh, yeah, Parmistan.
Yeah, so we have really brought to the forefront
the political commentary and trepidations of Parmistan. By the Caspian Sea.
Yeah. So I And if there is any reason that I can give on a personal level of why that is recalling my feeling about walking through New York City right now as spring is blooming and thinking about how overwhelming it is that we live in the world that we do, while feeling the privilege of the opportunities that I have as an individual and living in a world that we do where, things like what we had just heard about this week in Iran, happen. And whatever your view, there are many on the Iran conflict. 127 children, young girls at a school, and many of their parents were killed this week. And, and there are tragedies that happen all over the world at all times, at any given moment, that we, don't get to talk about. But what I want to stress with The Voice of Hind Rajab, which is a beautifully made film, great opportunity to talk about this issue, is it confronts you with this really central question. Can we get the girl out of the car?
Yeah. Time and/or history will tell the answer to that on a larger scale. This has been the only podcast about the film The Voice of Hind Rajab. Shahir, when you are not totally getting apolitical, where can folks find you?
Oh man, I actually had a really rough political phone call with a friend of mine this week, so I'm still actually
sorry.
No, not you. I was just I was thinking about it just then. You can find me getting angry at the world and sending you articles to prove a point at my website, suvanova.com. That's SUVANOVA.com. Matt, when you are forming your protest group to march on the halls of Parmistan where can people find you?
You can find me screaming Yakmala at the cruelty of the game over at my websites, Extra History and Extra Credits. By the time this comes out, what's going to be there? Let's see. We have our MOBAs episode, which teaches you about the 101s of MOBAs. If you're ever interested in playing League of Legends or Dota. Then also on history we have a Victorian horror series now, which is basically the birth of true crime, starting with Jack the Ripper. But like,
you guys read From Hell?
No, but it's all tied up together. It's funny. The true crime genre is so interesting where it started in Victorian London and how and where it's sort of gone is really, really interesting. It's not about Jack the Ripper, but Jack the Ripper is a proponent of what popularizes essentially true crime stories.
Is From Hell on your shelf over there?
No, sadly it's not.
Have you read it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Like that is the thesis of that entire book.
But Oh, and also if you're a subscriber over on Nebula, and if you're not, you can subscribe and get these podcasts a day early if you use our code. I believe it's Only Movie Podcast over on Nebula, get a discount. But my second appearance on Abolish Everything is up there, where I'm voted back for the redemption episode. So you can check that out, where I try to abolish the very concept of redemption.
Yeah, I've heard the speech. Not watched the video.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Also, you know what I want to say real quick? Shout out to the editors at Nebula. And I talked to them. I actually messaged the producers to pass my stuff along. And as an editor, Shahir, I hope you appreciate this. I would appreciate it if it ever came across my desk. Normally performers, when your stuff is cut down, you probably get a little bit sore about it, right? Like if you're like, oh, why did this get cut? Why did that get cut? I watched the edit of my performance, and because it's me doing a 5-minute PowerPoint presentation and then a bunch of improv comics sort of like arguing against me, right? Yeah. There was a couple moments where some of the things felt redundant even in the performance based on what the panel said. Yeah. And I think that the editors over at Nebula did such a phenomenal job cutting down my performance to make it flow better. Like, it's really nice when you see an edit. Yeah. Like, even though it's like your baby and you don't want to kill your darlings, I watched it. I was like, yeah, they made it better. Like, it's nice to see. So shout out to them.
Have you ever seen the movie The Insider, the Michael Mann movie?
Forever ago. Yeah.
Mike Wallace in that movie was like, who told you your grubby little fingers could edit me? I would just sing that clip.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite of that. I really I very much appreciate it. And I imagined, I said to them, I was like, I imagine you probably don't get this a lot on this show. And they're like, no, not really. And I was like, I don't know. Coming from an editing background, it was really nice to see a really solid edit of me. Look, you
and I both edit a lot of documentary footage as well, and I don't think I've ever been in a situation where the purpose of the edit is to make someone look bad. No. I know what you're saying. And in every situation, like I've always whenever I edit someone's interview down and I cut it up and that sort of thing, I'm always like, I need to give this person the dignity of the fact that they have given us their time and effort on screen, and like and I know like I've got to fit it in within this time constraint and this, I'm trying to make this point to this point to this point or whatever. But I've always been like, I also am very appreciative of the fact that this person got up on screen, got up on stage, made this PowerPoint presentation, did this thing. And there's some little greasy little dude like me in the back room now who's like going to chop little bits out of it. So I should be appreciative and make sure that what I am doing is actually to the betterment of what they're trying to say.
Well, I actually think it's in service of the piece rather than the actor, right? Like you're making the entirety of it better. And they did that. So it was really nice. So check that out if you haven't seen it already.
All right.
Next week we will, 2 days from now, we'll be doing the Oscar episode and our year in reviews of the year.
And if you want to get in your top 10 of 2025, you can have 1 minute of our time to send us a voicemail on onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. But the clock is ticking.
It's ticking.
If you're hearing this on Saturday on Nebula or Sunday on every other stream,
might be 24 hours before that on both counts, but we'll see.
You only have but a mere half day at most to get us that list. But enjoy yourself. Have fun. Have a good time.
It's only a minute.
Yeah, it's only a minute.
Dude, it's only a minute. Hey,
you have phones.
You who've made it to the end of this very difficult, but I think good episode and who have never emailed us in. Hey, you, send us an audio clip of your top 10 films.
I love hearing these. And it's a really it is really about the listener.
Yeah.
It really is about the listener and the movies.
Yeah.
So, enjoy yourself.
All right. Until then, we'll talk at you in less than a week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.